Okay, so it did its thing and I unpaused the video. So if you noticed, it's put it in classic mode. Or classic theme, I should say. And if you look, it has all that, like, nostalgic Windows look. And you can see the start menu and the start button have that, like, gray old square look. You know, and the taskbar is gray, and the title bars at the top are that dark blue and light blue and stuff. So basically, it put it in like the classic theme, which makes it look like Windows 95, 98. So we'll click OK, and it will apply. Now, if you noticed, everything's going to run a lot everything is running significantly faster. Because it has less of that graphics processing to do, especially since, you know, you don't have the high-end brand new graphics because you're running it on an older system. Haha. Now, if you notice, it does run a lot faster. Especially when you bring up... Oh my god, that properties window. Look how fast that properties window loaded. Much, much faster. And then you can... There you go, you can see the 354 kilobytes for the 5¼ inch floppy. But now you can definitely see the difference. You can see a lot of things load much faster because they don't have as much graphic processor and just general processing in general to do, because all those fancy displays and everything in Windows takes a lot. But let's say you want something in between. You don't want something super high-end, and you don't want something super low-end. So let's go back into that window. We're going to go to Advanced. So if you hit Custom, and you can see there it is, there's our options. Let Windows choose for what's best for my computer, adjust for best appearance, and adjust for best performance. Now you can see this is all the main graphic processing and animations and stuff that Windows has to make it look pretty. I guess you could call it almost like the cosmetics of Windows. And you can see they have, you know, animate the controls and elements inside the window and fade menus and fade in and out. And if you do notice, there are some differences graphically. Like when you move it, instead of the window moving and, you know, it kind of like shifting down, it gives you those diagonal lines, or I should not diagonal lines, I should say dotted lines. And when you release, it moves it. So you can see that there's differences there, and that the menus don't like slide up and they do all those fancy graphics. Again, the main one is it looks kind of like that Windows 95. But what you can basically do with custom is you can select which one you want. So you can decide, and granted, you could do a whole video on each one and which, you know, each check mark and what it does and the differences between when it's selected and not, and blah 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 blah. You know, that's why we have Google. The main one I'm going to talk about just a little bit is this last one, the use visual styles on windows and buttons. So we're going to go down and we're going to click OK. I'm going to give it a second to do its thing. And you can see it brought it back. So it does look like Windows 7 now. Now you can see it still has the bars, or I should say like the dotted lines, instead of the slide, and some of the other fancier graphic stuff is disabled. But you can see that it's actually running significantly faster. I'm going to close out of this. So that's one of the major ways to get more, you know, I guess you could say processing power for your buck. Now, I have a feeling a lot of you are going to ask, why not upgrade to Windows 10? Especially, you know, since there was a big push and it was, at one point, it was free. Well, I'm going to show you. And better yet, I think I have the data and the reason saved on a 5¼ inch floppy. If I can find the right one. Here we go. Now, this is the main reason why I'm not on Windows 10, and you can see the floppy disk is reading and it's loading. And that's why I can't load Windows 10. Because this PC can't run Windows 10 because you can't install Windows 10 because your processor doesn't support PAE or SSE2, and it also doesn't support NX. I'm not 100% sure what these are, but I know the PAE is kind of BS because it's made for computers to have more than like 4 gigs of RAM when the minimum is 1, so I don't understand this. And I'm not 100% sure what the SSE2 is. I do know the earliest compute processor that has this is a Pentium 4, which is basically around 2004. So if you have a computer 2004 or newer, there's a good chance you can probably get it to run Windows 7. But since the BIOS date on this is August 2000, I'm about 4 years too short. And that's not only the reason... That's not only the reason why I can't run Windows 10, but that's also how to get your computer to run faster, mainly with 7. If you try this with XP 10, 8, 8.1, whatever, I think you might even be able to do this in like 95, 98. I forget. It's, I don't use it that often, not as much as like 7 and 10. But there'll be slight little variations of it, but you'll be able to find it as long as you can get to that one window with the advanced and the settings. So YouTube, thanks for watching. That's how to make your computer run faster. Make Windows run faster on an older computer.